What is up everyone, Movie Worm back again with another video, and today is going to be my top 10 Arrow video titles. Now Arrow is one of the best labels out there. They do such great cover designs, they put lots of features on there, and they may bring out a lot of movies that are some of my favourites. I am a big fan of the 80s and stuff, I'm a big fan of horror, and a lot of their titles are them type of movies. They're still going strong, and they're bringing a lot of 4Ks out lately as well. But I was just going through my collection there, and I thought, you know what, I wouldn't mind just doing a top 10 Arrow video title. I will do an updated Arrow video collection later on this year. I have just done one about 6 months ago. If you want to check that out, that'll be down below in my collections playlist. But no honourable mentions here or anything. I've just picked out 10, and I'm pretty happy with the 10 I've picked. So let's just get into it. Number 10. Number 10 might be a little bit of a surprise here, and that is House 2. Now I know this isn't a great film by any stretch. It's a pretty bad movie actually, but I adore it. I absolutely love this film. So is it a bad movie? I mean, if I enjoy it that much? Technically it is. I mean, there's some crazy shit that goes on in this movie. You just like, I couldn't believe that they came up with this script and someone passed it and said, yeah, that'll be fine. It was just boggling watching this film, mind-boggling. Basically, it doesn't really attach itself to the first film. It's pretty much a standalone movie. But there's all sorts of wacky shit going on in here. They dig up their grandfather, who is buried in the garden, and he's like 170 years old when he dig him up, and he's just walking around like this zombie, but just like with not a care in the world. And I remember there was a party going on in the house, and the grandpa's dancing with this young girl. I thought he must smell horrendous, and the girl's just like having a little dance with him. There is a dog that is half caterpillar in this movie, just walking around the house. The two guys in this have these two girlfriends, and this guy comes along and sort of steals them, and they don't care, and they're actually happy that they have this house to themselves. There's a character in here who, I forgot his name, but he's just the weirdest character ever. He is so fun to be around though, and they go to different parts of the world here, like this dinosaur land and stuff, and when they come back, this pterodactyl is their new pet. And there's a dinner scene, and the pterodactyl is sitting there with a bib around its with a bib on its chest so it doesn't get any dinner on itself. I need to watch this movie again, it's fucking incredible. I had to put this in the top 10. Oh my god, I can't control myself. Yeah, this is definitely due a rewatch because me and my fiance had so much fun with this movie, so I had to include it in this top 10. Coming in at number 9 now, I have Calm Myself Down. It's another bit of a crazy film. It's kind of a bit like House 2, where you're just watching it going, this is so bad, but it's so good. And that is Killer Clowns from Outer Space. So basically, these aliens come down to Earth, and they are disguised as clowns. It sounds terrible already, but it's actually a really fun movie, and they start kidnapping people in the town, and wrapping them up in candy floss and stuff on their spaceship so they can take them back to their other planets. And people start realising when people go missing, these weird clowns are just walking around the city and stuff. But it's a B-movie that knows it's a B-movie. It has that cheese all over it, but it kind of is self-aware. It kind of knows that, which helps the movie, I think. It's not trying to be too serious. I love the look of the clowns in this. They're so fun to look at. It was just a great movie. I had so much fun with Killer Clowns from Outer Space. And it's just one of them things from the 80s that you can just watch and throw on and not think too much about, and just have a really fun time with. So number 9 is Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Number 8 is going to be a sequel that shouldn't have been as good as it is, and that is Psycho 2, because this was you could be forgiven for thinking, is this going to be a cash grab or whatever, because Psycho was just such a well-made movie. In fact, it's one of the best films of all time. But this surprised the hell out of me. This is a criminally underrated movie, apart from the horror community who do realise how good it is nowadays. This is basically Norman Bates coming out of prison 22 years later, and he's been fully reformed and stuff, and he is let back out into the public. But some people aren't happy with that, especially families of the victims from the first film, and they sort of start teasing him and stuff. And he doesn't quite know if he's actually committing these murders that are happening around him, or if people are doing it to sort of frame him. And you don't quite know yourself. The whole film is a little bit of a mystery, kind of a whodunit thing, even though Norman Bates is right at the centre of it, who's killed people before. And you kind of feel for him sometimes as well, because he does want to be better in life. He knows he's messed up, he knows he's killed these people, and there is no excuse for that, but you sort of see it in his eyes. It's a great performance from Anthony Perkins, who just takes on this role again. But some great moments in this film. I love how it's directed. It's just a brilliant sequel to Psycho. If you're a fan of that film, I honestly think that you will enjoy this. I really do. I've heard Psycho 3 is quite good as well. I haven't seen that one yet. But I can imagine that it is, because this is a really solid sequel. So definitely recommend Psycho 2. Next up is The Burning, a slasher that is sort of in the same vein as Friday the 13th. It all takes place at a camp, which is just a great setting for horror movies. Fear Street Part 2 is my favourite one because it was set in the camp. And this is basically about a group of campers who burn this guy called Cropsey, I think his name is, and he comes back a few years later. They don't kill him, he's just badly burned, and takes revenge. And he's got these big shredders as weapons. And it's just basically him going around the camp, picking these people up. There's some great kills here. Great characters as well. They're not just fodder. I mean, some of the characters here are really enjoyable. And there's a kill on a raft here, and it is so memorable. It's one of the best slasher kills I have ever seen. It all happens in about 10 seconds, but it's so great. It's just everything you want in a slasher is in this film. If you're a slasher fan and you haven't checked this out, it's definitely worth it. I actually think this is better than all of the Friday the 13th films. Yeah, I really did enjoy The Burning. Definitely worth giving it a watch, for sure. Next up is The People Under the Stairs. I have actually reviewed this in spoiler detail on this channel. It was an old review, but it's down below if you want to check it out. This is basically a home invasion film turned on its head from Wes Craven, and this is actually one of my favourite films by him, just behind Scream and A Nightmare on Elm Street there. But basically this guy owns this house, and he's like a landlord for poor families, and he just sort of treats them badly. He wants them all moved out so he can demolish the houses and build these new ones, I think. So some of the people who live in these houses, Leroy, Fool, and this other guy, I forgot his name now, they go into the house to try and sort of rob off the landlord, and they don't feel guilty about doing it. But this landlord sort of comes back and starts hunting them down around the house, and this house is full of traps, full of weird things. There's people actually living under the stairs that these landlords have kidnapped. They're not very nice people. There's cannibalism in here. There's tongues that have been cut out on some of the people that live under the stairs. And there's this dog. I hate the dog in this movie. It just chases Fool around the house and stuff, and they keep letting him loose. But like I said, it's a home invasion film turned on its head. The people who live there are actually the sinister ones. But I highly recommend this. It's a bit of comedy in there, but there is some creepy aspects about it as well. He sort of gets a great blend of horror comedy in here. It's called sort of black comedy, if you get me. And there's a moment in this where a young girl is actually thrown in a hot bath, and every time I watch it I just go, oh my god, that must hurt, every single time. But if you want to check my full thoughts on this, that will be down below. But The People Under the Stairs is a great movie. Next up is Lords of Chaos. A little bit of a blind by this. I had heard that people liked it, but I just seen it in the 2 for 15 sale, and I got this and Incident in a Ghostland, and wow, this blew me away. It really did. It's about a guy played by Rory Culkin, Macaulay Culkin's brother, of course, who invents black metal. This type of music, he invents it, and this other guy called Varg, I think his name is, joins the band, and he's just crazy, and everything starts to go off the rails. They start burning churches down and stuff because he accuses Rory Culkin of not being committed to black metal. Black metal is all about being bad people and stuff like that, and you know, rebelling and stuff. And he says, you better live up to your name of this music that you've created, and sort of forces him into it, and things just start going off the rails. But I believe this is a true story about this band who actually invented black metal, and I've heard the band say it's not, you know, it's not entirely true, everything that happened, but that doesn't take away the fact that this movie is just so good. Rory Culkin is incredible in this. He is. He suddenly became one of my favourite actors after I watched this movie. I just thought he was so good. There's some very, very violent moments in this film. There is. There's a lot of blood, put it that way. It's not one of them that is gory for the sake of it. The violence definitely adds to, you know, what the movie needs, if you like. It's a fascinating story. It's definitely worth a watch. And I like it when Arrow do these titles from like 2019, 2020. They do pick some really good films up, and this is one of them. Next up we have The Burbs. This is actually a steelbook edition there, some skulls in the back of the truck. Yeah, it's not worth opening it out because there's all leaflets and stuff in the way. But one of Tom Hanks' more comedic roles, how he started out, basically he's one of the top tier actors in the world now, isn't he? But he definitely started off in, you know, doing these comedies, and I think he does them really well. But this is basically about him and these other people in the neighbourhood who he's friends with, and these new people move into the street and they don't really do anything with the house. They never come out. They haven't done the lawn. The house is just dirty, and they starting to think that there's something going on with them. And then one of the old people in the street goes missing, and they think that these Klopeks who've moved in, that's the surname of the family, have killed them basically. And they start investigating this family, and you don't quite know if they are murderers or not. But just a really, really funny movie. I watched this so many times. I remember my uncle babysat me and my sister, and we he said, we're watching this, trust me, it's a great film, and I've loved it ever since. I've rewatched this so many times. One of my most watched films of all time. I just have so much fun with it. It's so much, you know, I love Tom Hanks and his friends acting like little kids and they're like in the 30s and stuff, but they're running around this neighbourhood like the little 10-year-olds trying to investigate this family. But yeah, highly recommend The Burbs. It's such fun. Next up is Candyman, a film I recently watched because the remake was coming out, just to refresh my memory. This has always been one of my favourite horror films of all time. This basically follows Virginia Madsen and her friend who investigate the legend of Candyman, because if you say his name in the mirror 5 times, he is supposed to come and kill you. So they start investigating that legend and stuff. They are like university students, and her life starts to spiral out of control a little bit after she says his name in the mirror 5 times. But this is pure horror. It really is. So much blood in this movie, so much creepiness, and Tony Todd is just excellent as Candyman. He's got this hypnotic voice, he's got the look, he's just fantastic, he really is. But this terrified me as a kid. I think it terrified a lot of people. I still to this day have not said his name in a mirror 5 times. It's just such a good movie, and it's just like I said, pure horror, and it is one of the best horror movies ever made in my opinion. Kind of underrated, I feel. I mean, I know a lot of people do enjoy this movie when they've seen it, but it's never in the conversation of top 10 horror films or anything, but it's definitely in my 10 for sure. So Candyman coming in at number 3. Next up is another film that is in my top 10 horror movies of all time. My favourite zombie film ever, Dawn of the Dead. And this is in a window box edition that Arrow used to do quite a few times. This has actually got 4 different covers. but I'll just show them two there, but you get a poster in there and everything. 3-disc edition. I know there's a 4K out now by Second Sight, I believe, but I didn't pick it up. But I've got this version, which I'm really happy with, and this is the perfect setting for a zombie film, isn't it? In a shopping mall. I love the 4 characters in this, the chemistry they have on screen, and basically it's a sequel to Night of the Living Dead, really. And the world has been overtaken by zombies, and they take shelter in this big, massive shopping mall. And, you know, I kind of like it because they just go to all these stores and do whatever they want. Basically just take all the chocolate, take all the guns they need, and then the motorcycle gang come in later on, so the zombies are then the least of the worries. I think George A. Romero just hit it out the park with this. It's just such a fun film. I love Keenan Rockmore's dad in this. I forgot his name, I'm really sorry. I do know his name, but it's just escaped me there. I just think he's great in this. He's one of the best characters running around with that sniper rifle. The only complaint really I have is the look of the zombies. Sometimes they just look like they're spray painted blue, you know, and I think Romero probably could have done with better looking zombies, but it doesn't take away the fact that this film is fantastic. It really is. My nan used to babysit us, and we used to watch this and zombie flesh eaters every time she babysat us. So Dawn of the Dead, just an amazing zombie movie. Coming in at number 1 though, there's probably been a hint all the way through this video if you haven't noticed, because I'm wearing a t-shirt. Robocop. My most watched movie of all time. This is probably my favourite Blu-ray that I own as well. A nice big box edition, and they are bringing this out on 4K soon. Now, I don't think I'm going to grab it, even though it's my favourite movie of all time, but I might grab the Steelbook edition. So I've got this and the Steelbook edition on 4K, maybe, I don't know. But I don't even ever know where to start with this film, because I just love so many things about it. This is basically about Murphy, who is shot to near death and is brought back as Robocop, and he's part man, part machine, all cop as it says on the front of the VHS cover, and he starts to fight crime in Detroit, and then he starts to seek revenge on the people who killed him. Just a really great movie from the 80s, it really is. I love the villains in this. Clarence Boddicker and his gang are just great. The OCP who run the police force all being corrupt and stuff like that. It's got so many little stories attached. The violence in this is so excessive, but it just works. Murphy's death is one of the most brutal scenes you'll ever see. And we can't forget Emil's death, where he's just melting in the acid there. Like, they just don't do that in films these days, do they? And there's a scene in this, honestly, where the gang in this film are just blowing cars up and shops for fun because the police are on strike, and it's got nothing to do with the story. But it's the best scene in the entire film, and it's just things like that. This film is just full of fun. Definitely just goes for it. And Paul Verhoeven made a masterpiece here, in my opinion. He really did. It's one of the best films of all time, and I'm so happy to own it in this lovely Arrow version. So thank you, Arrow, for bringing this out. Okay guys, that is my top 10 Arrow Video, Blu-rays that I own there. I didn't go by picture quality or anything, it was just the movie basically. So what are your top 10 Arrows? Leave them down below and I'll reply to you all, I promise. Do you like any of these films? Do you dislike them? Let me know down below in the comments. It'll be good to get a discussion going there. Please like and subscribe to this channel. It would really help me out and the channel itself. Thanks so much, everyone. And if you want to check out my full Arrow video collection, that will be down below. Even though I have added a few more titles since then, I'll do a new updated one later on in the year, probably in the summer or something. So thanks so much, guys. Take it all easy. I'll see you on the next video.